Part 14. I Can Break the Dimensional Wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 131. In the general two-dimensional animation world, no matter how strong the ability is and how unreasonable the settings are, in most cases, the taste of food is still close to reality, because those animations are not food animations, and there is no need to waste effort on food. Therefore, coming to this world with the cuisine of the world of Chinese small masters is the crushing of high latitudes. It is luminous and illusory. The guests of the soup house have never seen this kind of food, so it is normal for the guests to eat the food with enthusiasm. "I'll do it right away," Xiaoruo said to the monsters who just ran over. Since the guest asked for it, Xiaoruo had to cook another dish with Tom. Anyway, here is equivalent to practicing cooking. Just when Xiaoruo had just finished cooking, Granny Tang hurried over, saw Xiaoruo's already prepared meal, and said, "Is the dish ready? Stay here, come with me to accompany the guests." "What am I going to do with the guests?" Xiaoruo was a little puzzled. "The effect of the dishes you made is better than I imagined. You didn't see that scene at the time. When the dishes were opened, all the dishes were glowing. The gods were stunned when they saw this scene. One by one it's as if you haven't seen the world before." Thinking of the scene just now, Granny Tang couldn't help but secretly smiled and glanced at Xiaoruo again. After the guests eat the dishes, they need to see the chef by name. This requirement must be met. All the distinguished gods who come here will come. Go and drink with the guests. After the reception, you may be able to get a lot of tips. "Okay." Xiaoruo nodded. Since Granny Tang said so, he did not refuse. At the same time, he also wanted to see the gods in this world. "Wait a minute, let me get rid of the human aura on you first." Granny Tang swiped at Xiaoruo, as if to remove something. "Okay, I've already got rid of all the human aura on you, hurry up. Come with me." After that, Xiaoruo accompanied Granny Tang to the place where the gods were entertained. After a few minutes, they finally arrived outside the door. "Play music in it. The gods have fun. The guest has been waiting for a long time. This is the latest chef hired by our soup house, Mr. Xia," Granny Tang went in to inform, and then introduced Xiaoruo to the gods. The gods want to meet Xiaoruo, mainly because they want to know what the person who makes this kind of fantasy cuisine looks like, and make friends with him by the way. After all, the chef who makes ordinary dishes is a chef, but the chef who makes luminous dishes is a chef. Not just a chef anymore, a real master. But what they didn't expect was that the person with such culinary skills was actually a young man who didn't look very old. Xiaoruo just saluted, and when she looked up, she saw gods sitting in a circle. Unlike the inhuman gods who were octopuses and penguins when I passed by downstairs just now, the gods sitting here are all dressed in orthodox costumes, with a mask just enough to cover their faces. Cloth, with strange spells written on it, I don't know what it is for. Judging from the aura, these gods have a sense of oppression, which should be the noble gods mentioned by Granny Tang. However, these gods are different from what Xiaoruo thinks. Although they all look very dangerous, when eating, it is like having a dinner at a company. "Mr. Xia, the dishes you cook are really delicious," a god praised. "Yeah, I've never eaten such delicious food, this is the realm of the real god." Human tribute: "No, Mr. Xia's cooking is delicious, thumbs up." Granny Tang introduced before that the gods sitting here are all gods who own shrines or temples in the human world and often accept worship. They have money in their pockets and grab a handful of gold. "No, no," Xiaoruo waved her hands quickly, a little embarrassed to be praised by these gods. "Where is it? Mr. Xia is too modest. I have eaten all the cuisines in the world. I have never even heard of it. The ultimate in cuisine is to shine. Yes, the glowing dishes are too strong. I will definitely visit the soup house more in the future. It will be worth it this time if I can eat Mr. Xia's dishes. I'm going to pack a few copies in a while, and bring some back to my wife. In the future, I will bring my friends to the soup house, and I hope to eat the dishes made by Mr. Xia. Xiaoruo didn't expect the enthusiasm of the gods. But it seems that the gods drank a little wine before, and then Xiaoruo drank with them for a while, chatted while drinking, and took a few photos together. Many gods even gave Xiaoruo business cards, saying that they will come to humans in the future, the world can find them. After tossing for a long time, Xiaoruo finally backed out. It was the first time for Xiaoruo to drink alcohol after time traveling. Her head was a little dizzy and her face was slightly red. However, he is still a little fortunate that he went to the world of the little master to learn a cooking technique. Sometimes, it is too important to know a skill, otherwise he would have to mop the floor and rub his back when he came to work in the soup house. You did a good job today. Granny Tang's face seemed to bloom with a smile, the wrinkles on her face deepened, and she looked at Xiaoruo with more and more satisfied eyes. What a talent! I just heard that many gods said that they would bring friends to the soup house in the future, and some gods even said that they would invite Amaterasu to come here for dinner and celebrate Amaterasu's birthday in the soup house. If Amaterasu can really come, our soup house is really famous. Ah! Xiaoruo couldn't help wiping the sweat off his head. He heard what the god said just now. Although he forgot who said it, but judging from his tone, Xiaoruo felt that that guy probably drank too much and bragged. He doesn't even know about Amaterasu's birthday, how to celebrate it. Moreover, he originally thought that some stone gods, stream gods, and at most river gods would come to the soup house, but when Amaterasu came, the worldview would completely change. God Amaterasu probably won't come, Xiaoruo asked tentatively. Granny Tang thought for a while, and it is true that such a small place like hers can't accommodate such a big person. Even if Amaterasu doesn't come, there will be other gods who will come. Anyway, the reputation of luminous cuisine has been established, and in the future the guests depend on you. There was a golden light in Granny Tang's eyes, as if she saw endless gold. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhazi Jumiao. Chapter 132. In a few days. In the most upscale medicated hot spring pool of the soup house. At this time, thick steam floated over the medicated hot spring, which made everything around it faintly visible, and Xiaoruo was soaking in it comfortably. Of course, like Xiaoruo, there was a tomcat next to her. Tom is really different from other cats. It doesn't matter if he is not afraid of water, and he likes to soak in hot springs. One person and one cat are soaking comfortably in the hot spring, and there are several banshee technicians in pink clothes beside them. The hot spring is really refreshing, especially the medicated bath. I don't know what kind of medicine it is. In addition to the hot water, there is also a numb feeling on the skin, which makes Xiaoruo and Tom unable to bear it at the same time. He cried out in a comfortable voice. Ah! Meow! This hot spring is so comfortable. Xiaoruo opened her mouth after she finished speaking, and the pink-clothed banshee next to her immediately picked a grape from the plate and fed it to Xiaoruo's mouth. Zhang Zhang again, hello again. It seems that Xiaoruo doesn't want to eat this taste anymore. Xiaoruo frowned. The banshee at the side observed the situation and immediately noticed this, replaced the grapes with strawberries, and continued to feed them. Well, not bad. Tom on the side was learning and doing the same thing. Similarly, a cat demon with a cat face picked a grape and put it in Tom's mouth. This cat demon technician was chosen by Tom. After that, there are back scrubbing services in water, massage services, and so on. The comfort in them is beyond words. The skills of those banshee technicians are really good. Even Tom, he floats on the hot spring, and then there is the cat demon massaged its body in the water, and Tom's body became a little pink. It's so depraved. Now Xiaoruo is gradually getting used to the rhythm of the soup house. The unscrupulous Granny Tang set a high price for the luminous dishes. It's all Tom's cooking, so I'm not tired. The gods usually give a lot of rewards. Even if Xiaoruo doesn't use her own gold, it's enough to spend in the soup house, so Xiaoruo has nothing to do every day, except to learn magic and soak in hot springs in the soup house when she is off work. Then enjoy the service of the soup house. I feel that this world is much better than the Inuyasha world and the real world, and Xiaoruo is a little bit reluctant to leave. It was almost done. Xiaoruo got up, and immediately a banshee put a bathrobe on him. Come on Tom, go back. Meow. Tom also got up, and at the same time, the cat demon put a bathrobe on Tom, covering Tom's body. Master Tom, order me again next time, the cat demon whispered in Tom's ear when he was dressing Tom. Tom stretched out his hand and made an okay gesture. It seemed that Tom was massaged well. Well, today's massage was good, with moderate strength, better than yesterday's technician. Here, this is a reward for you. Xiaoruo threw away 2 pieces of gold, and flung them into the banshee's hands. Thank you Mr. Xia for your reward. The banshee excitedly held the gold in her hand, with a look of surprise on her face. As expected, it was Mr. Xia who was generous, and the consumption was paid directly with gold. When Xiaoruo walked out of the bathroom, there were frog monsters waiting outside. Mr. Xia, are you listening to music today? We have a new song recently. Forget it today, let's do it another day. Okay. Hearing that Xiaoruo refused, the frog monster was a little disappointed and stepped aside. Today's enjoyment was over. Xiaoruo and Tom walked back to the room slowly, leaving behind admiring gazes. After Xiaoruo left, the 2 girls who were mopping the floor couldn't help but stop what they were doing and rested for a while. Ah, Mr. Xia is so generous. He gave so many tips today. Damn it, why didn't you point me? Obviously my massage is also very good, a girl employee said a little excitedly, but after finishing speaking then she glanced at her companion beside her. Xiaoling, why don't you talk? It would be great if Mr. Xia chose us. The tip Mr. Xia gives us a day is equivalent to our wages for several months. Ah, it's not as good as that feed a few bastards a grape. The girl's face was swollen with jealousy. What can I do if I can't choose? Xiaoling also sighed. Xiao Yu, don't think about this kind of thing anymore. Did you see that those guys with big breasts are staring at Mr. Xia all day long? Even Mr. Xia's daily route has been counted by them, and haven't you seen it? Their chests are so open, if it were me, I wouldn't be able to show it. By the way, this is it. The girl named Xiao also nodded. I also often observe that Mr. Xia usually chooses women with big breasts to massage. Big breasts? Mr. Xia actually has such a habit. Xiaoling looked down at her own breasts. It was okay, but not as big as those breasts. By the way, Xiaoling, have you heard? Several gods were conquered by Mr. Xia's cooking yesterday. I heard that some gods cried after eating. Mr. Xia is really good. He cooks so well. I heard that he has friendship with many gods, and he looks good and has a good personality. He won't look down on our low-level employees, and he speaks very softly. When Xiao Yu talked about Xiaoruo, she seemed to have endless things to say, and seemed to admire Xiaoruo very much. Don't dream, hurry up and mop the floor. Xiaoling poked Xiao Yu's forehead with her finger. It hurts. Xiao Yu covered her forehead. Her dream seemed to have been shattered just now. I know it's impossible, but in fact, I thought, if I can serve Mr. Xia once and earn some money, I'll be satisfied. So don't think about it, let's drag today's land first. Xiaoling couldn't help but hit. Alright. After that, the 2 girls continued mopping the floor. Time passed. Night falls. It should have been the same night as usual, but this night, there was something a little different. A black shadow slowly sneaked into the vicinity of the soup house. There was a hint of ominousness and murderous intent in the wind. A female employee of the soup house opened the side door. As usual, when she was about to pour water out, a black figure appeared from her side. "Who are you? Are you a guest?" The female employee looked at the shadow and asked. There is only a mass of pitch black in the shadow, and even the face cannot be seen. "I eat. To eat?" The female employee couldn't hear what it was saying. "If you are hungry, you can go to the main entrance, where you can receive you. Of course, if you have no money, you should go home quickly. Eat. Eat. Eat." A black shadow rose, and in an instant, a bloody mouth appeared in front of the female employee. Click. At this time, not only is there an ominous smell in the wind, but also a trace of bloody smell. However, inside the soup house, there is still a happy and peaceful atmosphere, as if nothing happened, but, following the door opened by the female employee, the shadow got into it. Eat. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 133. The upper floor of the soup house. On the upper floor of the soup house, it is generally a place to entertain distinguished guests. The higher the floor, the more distinguished guests are entertained. Tonight, a few more gods finished enjoying the glowing dishes and were about to leave. "Open the big window quickly, the guests are leaving," Xiaoruo waved her hand and said to the little monster beside her. When Granny Tang was away, Xiaoruo was responsible for entertaining the guests. "Okay, Mr. Xia." The little monsters hurried forward to open the big window. Generally, powerful gods leave through this big window. This design is also for the convenience of some huge gods. "Mr. Xia, I am very satisfied with what I ate today, and I will come again next time." "Mr. Xia, next time I will bring my wife." After a few guests chatted with Xiaoruo for a while, Yufeng flew out from the big window. There were not many gods who came to eat luminous dishes in a day, just a few. Watching the gods leave, Xiaoruo breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, today's work is done. But Xiaoruo seemed to have thought of something, and looked at the little monster beside him. "Has Granny Tang come back yet?" "Mr. Xia, Granny Tang hasn't come back. Generally speaking, she won't come back until dawn," the little monster replied in a low voice. "What's the matter? Why has Granny Tang been going out recently?" The little one doesn't know, but Granny Tang was often not in the soup house before. Hearing this answer, Xiaoruo felt a little helpless. "Go down first." "Yes." The little demon next to him withdrew. In the original work, Granny Tang often flew out, and she didn't know what to do. When Xiaoruo joined the soup house, he found that Granny Tang was free and went out for a few laps. When she came back, she would watch the children on the top floor. There is nothing to do with it. Now some of the guests are served by Xiaoruo herself. Granny Tang is really a shopkeeper, only responsible for making money. Of course, this is fine for Xiaoruo. After all, no one is in charge of her every day, but there are also disadvantages. It's okay if no one is causing trouble, but if someone is causing trouble, there is really no combat power in the soup house, and those monsters seem to be a little stronger than ordinary humans. I guess I can only rely on myself to handle the accident, but it's okay, the average little god is not very strong. "Mr. Xia, it's not good, something happened, something happened." In the distance, a little frog monster jumped anxiously all the way, yelling while jumping, and when it reached Xiaoruo's side, the little frog was panting non-stop, with beads of sweat on its forehead. "Mr. Xia, something happened." Xiaoruo frowned, feeling a little bad. "What happened, so flustered? And next time, even if something big happens, keep your voice down. Now we are still open, what should we do if we disturb the guests?" Yes, yes, the voice is too loud, the frog immediately apologized, but there was still a trace of panic in his eyes. Mr. Xia, it's bad, we found a large blood stain on the first floor. Blood? Yes, it was noticed by the passing employees at that time. There was a lot of blood. Someone must have had an accident. What should I do? What should I do, Mr. Xia? The frog's face couldn't hide the panic. Presumably it also knew that Granny Tang was not in the soup house now. Although it knew that Xiaoruo was a human being, the frog didn't really believe him, but Mr. Xia was Granny Tang's disciple no matter what. It really didn't know what to do, so it came to Xiaoruo. Don't panic, take me to have a look. Yes. Inside the soup house, the dark shadows that sneaked in are constantly sneaking in the shadows in the soup house. Although when the soup house is in business, all the places are always brightly lit, and there are few dark places, but there are shadows where there is light, and the dark shadows can be integrated into the cracks in the corners, shuttling around without being noticed. In the soup house. Hungry. Eat. The black shadow slowly moved through the slits. A monster employee of a soup house was walking in the aisle at this time. It was holding a large plate of fish in its hand, and it looked like it was going to serve the guests, but it suddenly heard a strange sound coming from behind it. Low, but also seems to have some kind of magical power. Hungry. Eat. Who is it? Where is who? The monster turned its head immediately, but the corridor behind it was empty, as if everything just now was its illusion. Did I hear wrong? No, I feel like I'm going to serve the food, and the guests are waiting anxiously. As soon as the monster employee of the soup house turned around, his eyes suddenly went dark, and something blocked him. Hungry. A black shadow appeared in front of the monster employee. The black shadow exuded an ominous aura from head to toe. Looking at the black shadow in front of him, the monster employee trembled with fright. Eat. Guest, is the guest hungry? If you are hungry, eat this first. The monster employee tremblingly pushed the plate in his hand forward. The black shadow did not look at the fish on the plate, but looked at the staff in front of him with scarlet eyes. Eat. What was waiting for that employee was an open bloody mouth. Goodoo. A monster that big was swallowed whole by the black shadow, and at the same time, the black shadow seemed to grow stronger. The shadow disappeared into the gloom again, looking for the next hapless target. Hungry. The other side. Xiaoruo followed the frog monster all the way to the first floor by elevator, and soon, he saw the blood on the scene. The blood stain was next to a side door that could be pushed and pulled. At this time, there were 5 or 6 monster employees standing around, all with panicked expressions on their faces. Have you ever moved the scene? Xiaoruo asked as soon as she arrived. Mr. Xia, no, we haven't touched anything. It was like this when I first came here, a monster employee who didn't seem very courageous said cautiously. It was the first employee who found blood at that time. Good. Not long after Xiaoruo just arrived, the monster supervisor with the red hat also rushed over. It seemed that someone had notified him after something happened. Mr. Xia, what's the situation? The red hat supervisor asked after glancing at the blood on the ground. Not sure yet. Xiaoruo approached the scene and squatted down to check the blood stains. Except for the pool of blood at the door, there was only one wooden basin lying on the side. The situation on the scene can probably be analyzed. It should be an employee who fell was attacked while in the water, no body was seen, may have been taken, may have been eaten. Someone was attacked by an unknown creature. It is estimated that it is too bad. The blood is still fresh. It is estimated that it happened not long ago. Xiaoruo stood up. The door is open. It is estimated that the bad thing has mixed in, and it is a very dangerous thing. It is very likely that it has entered the soup house now. Maybe someone in the soup house has also been poisoned. Syaruo said to the supervisor next to him, after all, he has experienced the world of Inuyasha and seen too many corpses, so he can calm down and analyze at this time. Ah, did it come in? It's not good now, the Red Hat supervisor began to sweat on his forehead. Now that Granny Tang is away, he can't take responsibility if something happens. Damn it, how can you let this kind of thing come in? Granny Tang is not here, what should I do now? Can the soup house close now? Syaruo asked the Red Hat supervisor beside him. After all, he was only cooking and could not order all the soup house employees, so he had to look at the one next to him. No, it can't be like this. Many guests are still taking baths. If we drive away the guests now, we will easily offend many gods and adults, and we will lose a lot. Granny Tang will kill me, the monster in charge desperately wiped cold sweat. Syaruo frowned. Then the only way is to take out the things in the soup house and dispose of them. But that monster might. It's okay, I'll catch it. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 134. Something happened to the soup house, when Granny Tang was not around. The main storyline hasn't started yet, Chihiro hasn't appeared yet, so there are so many things now, and sure enough, when we really arrive in the world of animation, we will find that a fantasy world is completely different from what was shown in the animation for a few hours. I can be regarded as a member of the soup house now, and it is impossible to really ignore the accident in the soup house. Syaruo took out the long sword she got from Inuyasha world from her private space. She has been cooking for a long time recently, and almost thought she was a chef. When it was upgraded to LV3, Syaruo's body of reality and power of reality were both upgraded, so Syaruo's strength at this time is stronger than that of Inuyasha world. This morning, Syaruo also used the accumulated 2000 prestige to fully learn the magic wind travel. Now flying is not a problem, and even when the wind travel works on him, his speed will increase a lot. Now he has the confidence to deal with the monsters that came to the soup house. Mr. Xia, hurry up and notify other employees, let everyone know about it, pay attention to various places, and find that monster as soon as possible without causing panic, and then call loudly, I will arrive immediately. Syaruo looked very calm, and his calmness also calmed down the surrounding employees. Those employees mainly saw that someone had an accident, and were very afraid of disaster befalling them. However, when Mr. Xia said that he could fight against that monster, all the employees breathed a sigh of relief. When Granny Tang was away, Syaruo gave them a sense of peace of mind and temporarily stabilized the situation. Yes, Mr. Xia. The supervisor of the Red Hat also went to notify the employees on all floors by phone, and let all the employees know about it as much as possible. The whole soup house was mobilized at this time, and many employees were waiting for the guests, while looking for the things hidden in the dark. Now that the soup house has entered an emergency situation, Syaruo can only keep patrolling the soup house, trying to find the monsters that entered the soup house. However, Syaruo patrolled the soup house for more than 10 minutes, but found nothing, and there was no sound from other places. Syaruo was a little puzzled. It's strange, there shouldn't be many hiding places in the soup house, how could that guy not be found until now? Could it be that he got mixed up with the guests? Even if it sneaks in among the guests, as long as it wants to eat people, it will definitely be discovered. Mr. Xia, Mr. Xia. A male monster ran up to Syaruo and called Syaruo loudly. Did you find anything? Syaruo asked. Mr. Xia, someone disappeared. Just now, the customer said that there was a portion missing when the food was served. Then I went to check. The guy who served the fish disappeared. I saw traces of the soup being spilled, but the person was gone. Obviously I saw him carry the food out with my own eyes, the monster said to Syaruo. Where did it disappear? 6 floors. Take me. Yes. Xiaoruo followed the monster to the place where the waiter disappeared. Seeing some soup spilled on the ground, Xiaoruo put Tom on her shoulder on the ground. Tom, smell it, is there any strange smell, can you track it? Meow. Tom froze for a moment, did he use himself as a dog? Tom really tried to smell it, but he didn't smell anything, and shook his head at Xiaoruo. Found it? At this time, Xiaoruo suddenly heard a voice from a distance. It seemed that someone was shouting, and it was not far away, just in front of the 6th floor. Xiaoruo used the wind travel technique, and her whole body turned into an afterimage, and rushed towards the direction of the sound. Along the way, Xiaoruo drove a strong wind and air current, and the skirts of many female employees were blown up by the huge wind. Here, I saw it, that black shadow, it's right there, Mr. Xia. A monster employee pointed in a direction with his finger while jumping. Mr. Xia, I just saw it eat a person, just swallowed it. Xiaoruo immediately looked in the direction of the monster employee's finger. In Xiaoruo's eyes, she only saw a black shadow at a corner, and that shadow disappeared in just an instant. But at that moment, Xiaoruo still saw it. Got you. Like the wind, Xiaoruo rushed to the corner where the black shadow appeared just now, and saw it again in a dark corner. Dare to eat people in the soup house, you can't escape. The huge wind surrounds Xiaoruo's body, causing his hair and clothes to sway non-stop. At this time, Xiaoruo's face has a trace of anger, which looks aggressive. The black shadow seemed to have heard Xiaoruo's voice, and seemed to be frightened by Xiaoruo's aura. He didn't intend to stop at all, but kept walking along the dark corners and crevices, as if he wanted to escape, and got into the dark corner after that. It's fast. However, Xiaoruo's speed is not slow, and she can follow that black shadow closely. The two of them chased all the way, crossing most of the floors, and the surrounding employees and gods all stepped aside after seeing this chase. However, just when Xiaoruo was about to catch up with the black shadow saw a gap in the ground and went straight in, from the 6th floor to the 5th floor. Don't try to run. It's a waste of time to go down the elevator now, and it's easy for that black shadow to run away. Xiaoruo directly gathered the power of reality on his fist, and hit the floor with one punch. He upgraded his strength bonus. Xiaoruo's strength is very strong. With the power of reality, the floor of the soup house looked like it was made of mud in front of Xiaoruo. Boom! Xiaoruo punched through the floor and jumped from the 6th floor to the 5th floor. The guests who were dining on the 5th floor stared dumbfounded at Xiaoruo, who landed from above, completely unaware of what happened. Xiaoruo glanced at the guest, nodded slightly, and then chased after the black shadow. It was all the way to chase again. A man with a wind was chasing a black shadow, and there was such a chase scene in the soup house. Even many gods thought it was the latest show from the soup house, and they all ran out to watch the show. Come on, Mr. Xia. Come on, Mr. Xia. Many employees of the soup house upstairs are cheering for Xiaoruo. That black shadow seems to have eaten a lot of people, and now Mr. Xia can completely deal with it, and chase it all the time. Boom! Xiaoruo punched through the floor again, chasing after the black shadow and hitting from the 5th floor to the 4th floor. No matter where the shadow was, it seemed like it couldn't get rid of Xiaoruo. Roar! The black shadow roared, and glanced at Xiaoruo with scarlet eyes. There seemed to be hatred in the eyes, but it still didn't stop, and kept running. However, there was a girl very close to it on the route it ran this time. Xiaoling was watching a play, but she didn't expect the black shadow to come towards her suddenly. She wanted to run, but it was too late. In the process of running away, the black shadow also saw Xiaoling, so it couldn't help stretching out its hand, grabbed Xiaoling, and wanted to put her in its mouth. Hungry? Eat. Little Ling. A girl screamed in the distance. Xiaoling was completely dumbfounded seeing this scene, thinking that she was going to be eaten like this. She even saw the tongue and the black hole in the monster's mouth. Swish! A silver light flashed, and Xiaoling even dropped the black shadow's arm to the ground. Xiaoruo appeared with a strong wind, and cut off the black shadow's arm with a sword. Did you look down on me? You actually want to eat people. After Xiaoruo finished speaking, she shook her hand vigorously, shot out the sword in her hand, and stabbed the black shadow's tail with one sword, nailing it to the ground so that it could not run away so nimbly. Roar! The black shadow roared in pain. At this time, Xiaoruo saw its true face clearly. Sombra's body is transparent black, very similar to the faceless man in the original work, and there is also a mask on his face, which was hidden before, but can only be seen now. Sombra's mask is different from the faceless man's, and his temperament is completely different. There are several big holes on his mask, and there are blood-colored patterns, which look very evil and ominous. Hungry. Eat. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 135. Finally caught you. At this moment, Xiaoruo was confronting the shadow with the mask, and the tail of the shadow was nailed to the ground by Xiaoruo with a sword. It's completely different. It's more than 2 meters tall and tall, like a huge alien. Compared with Xiaoruo, there seems to be a significant difference in body size between the two. In terms of body shape, Xiaoruo is too far behind. The masked man struggled twice, but was unable to growl in pain. Mr. Xia. Xiaoling was still in shock at this moment, and she fell to the ground with flustered eyes. At this time, her face was Xiaoruo's back. Looking at this back, Xiaoling's heart calmed down a little. Get out of here, I'm here. Xiaoruo turned her head and gave Xiaoling a reassuring smile. Thanks. Xiaoling immediately got up from the ground, quickly left the place, and ran to a slightly safer place. Of course, although she reached a safe place, she was still very concerned about the battle not far away. Xiaoling, it was so dangerous just now. The girl named Xiao hurried over to comfort Xiaoling when she saw this scene. If it wasn't for Mr. Xia, you would have been eaten just now. Well, Xiaoling nodded, feeling a little fortunate that she almost died just now. I didn't expect that Mr. Xia is so reliable when Granny Tang is not around. It's great. At first, I thought that Mr. Xia was a human being, and his strength was not strong, but it seems that everyone guessed wrong. If there is no Mr. Xia, I don't know how big things will happen tonight. Xiao Yu looked at the back of Mr. Xia not far away. Fortunately, he patted his chest. Well, Xiaoling nodded, agreeing with this statement. After all, when the soup house was in danger, it was Mr. Xia who stood up. She felt that not only her and Xiao Yu, but after tonight, the impression of Mr. Xia in all the people in the soup house would change. Get out of the way quickly, don't disturb Mr. Xia. The Lord in charge also arrived with his people at this time, and began to build an encirclement circle around him, so as not to let others affect the battle inside. Disgusting. Looking at the mask on top of the masked monster, Xiaoruo felt slightly disgusted. Unlike the faceless man, this black shadow not only exudes ominousness from top to bottom, but also the style of the mask is also a very disgusting style. The big mouth and fangs below, this shape really makes people feel uncomfortable. Hungry. Eat. The black shadow faced Xiaoruo, and the big mouth under the mask was drooling. It seemed that the monster's sanity was not very high. It also roared at Xiaoruo twice, as if it was threatening. Xiaoruo felt that this monster was a bit like the void in death, and the mask was most likely its weakness. Since you're hungry, just pay the money honestly and come to the soup house for dinner. If you choose this way, it's hard for me to treat you as a guest. The long sword in his hand was thrown out just now, and there was no weapon in his hand. Xiaoruo took out a wooden knife from the private space. This wooden knife is Xiaoruo's backup weapon, just to deal with the loss of the weapon. Moreover, for Xiaoruo, there is no difference between a wooden knife and a real knife. There are so many people who have eaten at the soup house, there is always a price to pay. Sioruo made a move, and Sioruo, who was wrapped in the wind, turned into an afterimage, and appeared in front of the masked shadow in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the wooden knife in Sioruo's hand also cut towards the masked man's mask. His speed is already very fast, but the reaction of the masked man is also very fast. The masked man's head is slightly sideways, avoiding the fatal blow. Its mask was not broken, but Sioruo chopped off the shoulder. Bingo! It was clearly just a wooden knife, but the body cut by the wooden knife disappeared like a bubble. Roar! The masked man wailed in pain, as if he felt great pain. Stimulated by the pain, the masked man frantically tried to grab Sioruo with his big hand, but Sioruo's figure was very flexible, and he dodged the mask in an instant. Male attack. Huh! What a powerful recovery ability! Sioruo found that one of the masked man's arms he had just cut off had recovered, and even the shoulder he had just cut off was also recovering. Eep! The masked man felt the danger, and he didn't dare to stay here any longer. He reached out and pulled out the long sword nailed to the ground, preparing to run away again. Don't even think about running. Sioruo used Feng Xin to speed up again, entangled the masked man, and slashed at the masked man's body with one sword at a time. The masked man's huge body was just a target for Sioruo, and he could only be beaten passively. The attack speed is not fast, and Sioruo can dodge it or smash it in the air. The battle is almost a one-sided crush. The power of reality is really too strong. In the original work, Granny Tang's fireball hit the faceless man similar to this monster, and she couldn't even break the defense. This shows that the defense of this shadow creature is very high, but in Xia in front of Ruo, it was like a completely defenseless piece of paper, it would break if poked. However, Xiaoruo was worried that someone would still be alive in the masked man's stomach after being eaten, so she never dared to cut the masked man into two, and only aimed at the edge of the masked man and attacked the mask. Seeing that Xiaoruo had been gaining the upper hand and beating the monster so helplessly, the employees of the surrounding soup houses cheered. In the end, Xiaoruo shattered both arms of the masked man, making it completely defenseless. Xiaoruo found the right opportunity and slashed at the mask with a sword. Die! Click! Cracks appeared where the mask was hit, and then slowly expanded, turning into pieces with a snap, and the black shadow's body also dissipated into the air. The monster is dealt with. At the same time, after the black shadow disappeared, 3 employees who were eaten fell out. 2 of them didn't seem to be dead yet. 2 pieces of the body were lost. Xiaoruo sighed, but still didn't save everyone. Oh! Seeing that the monster was dealt with by Mr. Xia, and some of the people who were eaten survived, all the surrounding employees rushed up and cheered non-stop. Mr. Xia! Mr. Xia! Mr. Xia! Xiaoruo waved her hand, acting very flat, and put away the wooden knife in her hand. Nothing, you always call me Mr. Xia, and I have also enjoyed your service in the soup house, so I have the responsibility to protect you. As long as I am still in the soup house, I will definitely stand by you when I am in danger. In front of you. As long as I'm here, I won't let any of you get hurt. Hearing Xiaoruo's words, combined with Xiaoruo's previous actions, many employees burst into tears on the spot, almost crying. They all believed in Mr. Xia's words, and the employees of the soup house were completely recognized by Xiaoruo. Who cared about them before? These low-level employees were either exploited by Granny Tang or bullied by the supervisor, and kept doing dirty work. Compared with Granny Tang, who has been exploiting them all the time, Mr. Xia is usually generous, and his boss, who appears on the front line when he is in danger, is simply a saint. Tom on the side looked at the master quietly, covering his face helplessly. It was thrown off right from the start. It has always been like this, the dirty work, the tiring work, and the invisible work are all done by myself. When it comes to really showing off and saying nice things, the master is always the first to rush to the front. I am really a tool cat. Anyway, take me with you when you're in the limelight. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 136. After the matter was resolved, the soup house returned to normal. As for where the masked man came from, no one could tell. The world itself was not as peaceful as it appeared, and it would not be surprising for any kind of creatures to appear. When it was almost dawn, Granny Tang finally came back. Of course, Granny Tang discovered something was wrong with the soup house as soon as she came back. After asking the monster in charge, she finally understood what happened. You mean, Xiaoruo dealt with the intruding monster alone? And he was the only one, Granny Tang confirmed again to the monster in charge. Yes, Mr. Xia solved the intruder with only one person, and it looks very easy, the supervisor monster said truthfully. Is it easy? Granny Tang's eyes narrowed slightly. She already knew that Xiaoruo was capable, and this incident confirmed it, but the stronger Xiaoruo was, the more disturbed Granny Tang became. Two strong subordinates are not easy to control. But now the two are still in a cooperative relationship, there will be no conflicts for the time being, and Xiaoruo is also very honest, and she doesn't seem to have any wrong thoughts. Granny Tang plans to continue to observe for a while. Now Xiaoruo is on good terms with many gods, Granny Tang don't dare to do too much to him. I see, you go down. Yes. The soup house when it is open. Snapped. An employee overturned the plate in front of Xiaoruo, smashing the luminous dishes that Xiaoruo had just fried, and the luminous dishes became dim after spilling on the ground. The monster staff watched the scene and kept trembling. Even if they sold that dish, they would not be able to pay for it. If something like this happened, Granny Tang would turn it into charcoal essence. Hush. The imaginary reprimand did not appear, Mr. Xia just made a booing gesture. It's okay, but the dishes are spilled, I'll just make another one, Xiaoruo comforted the employee with a gentle smile on his face. He was about to leave, and then went back to let Tom cook again. A dish was brought out for it. Thank you Mr. Xia. The monster employee had a big ups and downs and almost cried. It's okay, just pay attention next time. Yes. At this time, the employee felt that Mr. Xia was probably the best person in the world. After the incident with the masked man, Xiaoruo's prestige has increased a lot, and Xiaoruo usually has no superior attitude towards ordinary employees, so Xiaoruo's popularity in the soup house is very high. Xiaoling also thanked Xiaoruo afterwards. Xiaoruo and Xiaoling talked a little bit, and finally they had some friendship. The soup house returned to its daily life, and nothing troublesome happened after that. It is still the same as before. Xiaoruo cooks some luminous dishes every day, practices cooking skills, and then enjoys a massage service in the hot spring in the soup house in her free time. This kind of life is comfortable and leisurely, even if besides cooking, she also needs to accompany guests once in a while. Xiaoruo can also accept it. Sometimes, some female gods always like to order Xiaoruo's dishes, and then let Xiaoruo accompany wine or something. I feel that those female gods are quite lonely, so Xiaoruo listens to their complaints, and then comforts them when they accompany the wine, but the result was that those female gods often came to eat, and Xiaoruo began to doubt whether their money was enough. Seeing this situation, Granny Tang seemed very happy, and suggested that Xiaoruo should promote drinks when drinking with guests, and even give Xiaoruo a commission, but Xiaoruo refused. Xiaoruo is not short of money, and he always feels that there seems to be something wrong with his job content. You have to keep your chef's heart. The days passed like this. During this period, Xiaoruo never stopped learning magic with Granny Tang, but Granny Tang seemed to be afraid of Xiaoruo. The magic she taught Xiaoruo was some very basic and simple magic, such as life magic such as dust removal and item restoration. Offensive magic has been guarded very hard. One day, everyday life finally becomes a little different. Mr. Xia, Granny Tang is looking for you, please go to the top floor. Xiaoruo glanced at the frog monster who notified her, with a trace of surprise in her eyes. You know, Granny Tang may not take the initiative to look for him once a month, how could she think of coming to him today? Okay. Xiaoruo nodded, and when he took the elevator to the top floor, he saw an acquaintance, a young man in white, in Granny Tang's office. Beilong, the male protagonist in Spirited Away. Xiaoruo originally thought that Beilong disappeared because of his appearance, but why did he suddenly appear again? Xiaoruo, you're here. Granny Tang glanced at Xiaoruo who had just come up, and waved to Xiaoruo with a kind smile on her face. Let me introduce you, this is my new disciple. It's called Beilong, and from today on, he and I will start learning magic. Hello, Mr. Xia, Granny Tang has always mentioned you to me, Beilong said after bowing to Xiaoruo. Although he looked very polite, there was no expression on Beilong's face. Hello, Xiaoruo responded with a slight nod. Since the two of you know each other, then Xiaoruo, you can take Beilong to the soup house to get acquainted with him. By the way, introduce Beilong to the people in the soup house. By the way, Beilong's main job is not in the soup house, but in the soup house. It's to help me with some things, Granny Tang said to Xiaoruo. Okay, Xiaoruo nodded, and looked at Beilong, come with me. Yes, Mr. Xia. Beilong followed Xiaoruo out of Granny Tang's room, but when she got off the elevator, Xiaoruo couldn't help but glance at Beilong. Beilong, I'm your senior, so I'll call you Xiaobai from now on. Noob. Beilong's indifferent face twitched. He knew it before. This Mr. Xia is a human being, and he is not too old. Okay. Xiaobai, by the way, what is your name, was it taken away by Granny Tang? Xiaoruo asked casually in the elevator. My name is Beilong. Beilong's tone was still very cold. It seems that your name has been taken away. That old woman likes to take away other people's names like this, but it's okay, you will find your name one day, Xiaoruo said to herself. Beilong frowned. He always felt that this Mr. Xia was very strange, and he was very courageous. He dared to call Granny Tang an old woman. He had never seen such a human being. As for things like names, he had long since given up hope to get them back. Downstairs, Xiaoruo summoned the employees of the soup house. Just like Granny Tang introduced him at that time, he introduced Beilong in front of everyone. This is Beilong, Granny Tang's newest disciple. You can call him Mr. Bai from now on. Yes. Everyone in the soup house responded. At this point, Beilong officially joined the soup house. But Xiaoruo looked at Beilong beside him with a puzzled expression on his face. Since Beilong appeared, it proved that the plot was still going according to the normal direction, but Beilong appeared too late. Even if she didn't know the exact timeline, Xiaoruo still guessed that when Kingsun came to the soup house, Beilong had been in the soup house for at least a year or two. Do I have to wait for Chihiro for a year or two? It has been about a month since Beilong joined the soup house. During this period, Beilong kept a straight face and remained expressionless, so although the employees of the soup house called him Mr. Bai, secretly they didn't like Beilong very much. Fortunately, Xiaoruo has been taking care of him, and Beilong is also very strong, and his life in the soup house is not bad, but he often goes out to help Granny Tang with things, and every time he comes back with an injury. 1 month has passed, and Xiaoruo still hasn't waited for Chihiro. Although she knows that this mission is set by the system, it will definitely not be smooth sailing, but she can't even see the heroine. Could it be that Jian Sun can't come? so I have to wait like this forever. Is it right? Where did I think wrong? Syaruo felt that he might have fallen into a certain fixed thinking and ignored some details, so he couldn't help but look at the task requirements issued by the system to himself. Task requirements: the girl and her parents entered the fantasy world. The lost girl is about to encounter a major crisis and urgently needs your help. Your task is to send her back to her original world. After carefully reading it several times, Syaruo really found some points that she hadn't noticed before. The girl mentioned in the system task did not say that it must be Chihiro Ajino, but I watched the animation by myself, and I was too impressed with Chihiro, so I felt that it must be Chihiro who entered here by mistake. Could it be that someone else entered this world by mistake? Sakuragaoka Girls' High School in Japan. In the light voice department, there was a woman's scream suddenly. Ah! A girl was frightened by a spider and squatted on the ground with her head covered. It seemed that the girl was very afraid of this kind of thing. Mio, it's a toy, it's a toy. Tanakaritsu put the spider toy into his pocket with a smile. The spider just now was just a rough toy, not realistic at all, and it is impossible for ordinary people to be scared by such a thing arrived. But looking at Tanakaritsu's reaction, it seemed that he had already guessed that this would happen. Ryu-chan, why do you carry this kind of thing with you? Yui Hirasawa asked strangely. This toy is a gift from my younger brother to buy snacks. I thought that Mio would be scared, so I brought it here, Ritsu Tanaka explained. This is the Kingian department of Kingian Girls' World. At this time, the walls of the Kingian department are all poster gifts they received from Syaruo at that time. The posters are all their two-dimensional images. In Sakuragaoka High School it is a very bright landscape. It has been a while since they returned to Japan. Of course, the experience of traveling to Hwagyo at that time will never be forgotten. That is, Akiyama Mio will sometimes send emails to Syaruo, but there has been no response. Regarding this point, Akiyama Mio was very disappointed. You know I'm afraid, why did you show me this kind of thing? Akiyama Mio looked better after learning that the spider was a toy, but she was still a little scared and didn't dare to approach it. Although Akiyama Mio looks like a cold girl, but in fact she has a gentle personality and is very timid. Whether it is a ghost story or a bug, no matter what she hears or sees, she will tremble with fear. However, Tanakaritsu liked to tease her very much. Because Mio, you are too timid, I want to exercise your courage. Ritsu Tanaka tried to demonstrate the fact that she teased Mio with some plausible reasons. Think about it, Mio, you are so timid, what will you do when you go out to work in the future? Last time you worked on the street to distribute tissues, you didn't even send out a single one in the afternoon. Last time, it was the same in the maid cafe, even welcome I can't even tell. If I don't exercise my courage now, I will be unemployed in the future, unemployed. That's right, we're going to work in the future, Hirasawa said, clapping his hands, suddenly realizing, unemployment is such a heavy topic, it's so troublesome, and we have to work in the future. If we can drink tea and fish every day like now, all right. Senior, if you don't work, you'll be stuck at home, Azusa Nakano couldn't help but said, looking at such a lackluster senior. Yeah, unemployment is a very serious problem. Mio's courage is really too small. In the future, accidents will definitely happen in society, so I decided to make a plan to develop courage, Ritsu Tanaka said suddenly. Woke up. Mio, I heard that there is a ghost-themed haunted house nearby. Let's go to the haunted house on the weekend to exercise our courage. Snapped. Akiyama Mio slashed Tanakaritsu's head with a knife, and said in a very firm tone, I won't go, just give up. A haunted house with monster theme, Akiyama Mio's body starts to tremble just thinking about it. How could he go to such a place? The ghost-themed haunted house sounds very interesting, I really want to go. Kotobuki is quite interested, but it's fine if Mio doesn't want to go, and I think it's not a bad idea to use a haunted house to exercise courage. It's very useful, because ghosts, monsters, and the like don't exist in this world. Hey, what about Yui? What do you think of the haunted house? Ritsu Tanaka looked at Yui Hirasawa, who was beside him. Haunted house? I don't think it's interesting, and I don't have enough pocket money recently. I guess I can't even afford a ticket, Yui Hirasawa said embarrassingly. Oh, it looks like no one is going. Ritsu Tanaka looked a little disappointed. Then what are we going to do this weekend? Do you want to come to my house to play? My brother is not at home this week. Okay, Hirasawa Yui was the first to agree, so that you don't need to spend money. I agree, Kotobuki also agreed. Okay, I don't have anything to do this weekend, Mio Akiyama said when the phone rang suddenly. She picked up the phone and glanced at it. It was a text message from her family. After looking at it for a while, Akiyama Mio put down the phone. Sorry, I may not have time to go this weekend. My father said he would take me and my mother to see my grandma. The place where my grandma lives is a bit far away. It will probably take a few days. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zojezi Jumiao. Chapter 137. The rest of the Kingian girls chose to go to Tanakaritsu's house to play around, and only Akiyama Mio went to see grandma with her parents. Akiyama Mio didn't quite understand why her parents suddenly wanted to take her to see her grandma. It was obviously not a festival or an important day. Just before today, Akiyama Mio didn't even know about it. Generally speaking, there is nothing wrong with seeing grandma, but it was a bit too sudden. Mio Akiyama also asked this question, but the answer given by his parents was yes. I haven't seen grandma for a long time, and I just happen to have time to visit. There is nothing wrong with this answer. It has indeed been a long time since I saw my grandma last time. The plan was to stay at grandma's house for 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. Akiyama Mio even took a day off from school, because she didn't stay for long, so Akiyama Mio didn't bring anything with her. In the early morning of the next day, Akiyama Mio got up early to change clothes. I'm looking forward to seeing grandma. The last time I saw grandma was on grandma's birthday. By the way, what clothes should I wear? Akiyama Mio looked at the clothes in her closet full of clothes, chose for a long time, and finally chose a blue t-shirt, because it is still summer, so she also took out the beret she bought before and put it on up. She looked at the mirror on the wardrobe, and a very young and beautiful girl appeared in the mirror. Just wear this. Akiyama Mio is very satisfied with the matching of her clothes. Click. Mio Akiyama, who was looking in the mirror, suddenly found that a crack appeared on the mirror in front of her. It was very strange and sudden. Obviously nothing touched the mirror, and then it split open automatically, and the split location was just right. Is the position of one's own face. It's strange, why is the mirror cracked? It's obvious that this wardrobe was bought not long ago, and the quality is so poor. Akiyama Mio frowned. This sudden incident spoiled her good mood. Bum. At this moment, Akiyama Mio's cell phone rang. Akiyama Mio took the cell phone on the table and looked at it. It was his best friend Ritsu Tanaka who called. It was a bit strange why Ritsu called herself so early. Hey Lil, what can I do on the phone? Oh, Mio, I want to ask if you have set off yet? Ritsu on the other end of the phone asked. Not yet, I just finished changing my clothes and I'm leaving soon, Mio Akiyama replied, and then looked at the things that had been packed. Almost all of them had been packed. Mio, you must be careful when you go out this time, I'll tell you something. Ritsu's voice suddenly became mysterious, and his tone became a little deeper. What's up? According to Ritsu's tone, Akiyama Mio deduced that what she said must be something bad, but out of curiosity, Akiyama Mio still asked. When I was looking up homework answers on the internet, I suddenly slipped my hand and accidentally clicked on a fortune-telling advertisement. I thought, since it's such a coincidence, let's count it as a fate, so I spent a huge sum of money and gave Mio 10 yen. You did a fortune telling, and you guessed what the result would be, said Lee, and he even played tricks when he said this. Wait a minute, is it so unreliable to check homework online? Also, 10 yen is a huge amount of money. The most important thing is, why do you click on the fortune-telling website with your hand, and is it not good for you to tell fortune-telling to yourself? Why do you want to count for me? There were too many flaws in Ritsu's sentence just now. Although Akiyama Mio wanted to complain, she held back. The important thing is that Akiyama Mio was really curious about the result of the fortune-telling. What's the result of my fortune-telling? Akiyama Mio still couldn't help asking in a low voice. As a result, Lil's super loud and excited voice came from the other end of the phone. It turned out to be a big murder. A big murder. It's a huge omen. Mio, you have to be careful, you will encounter a huge disaster when you go out this time. Ritsu's voice was so loud that Akiyama Mio even pulled the phone away. You're making up fake news to scare me on purpose again. Akiyama Mio became suspicious of Ritsu's words, because her good girlfriend always likes to play tricks on her. I really didn't lie to you this time. When the results came out, the pages of the website were all blood red, like dripping blood. It was so scary. It really felt like a bad omen. No way, online fortune-telling is inaccurate, and machine fortune-telling is completely unprofessional, so don't believe in such things. Japanese people are actually very superstitious, so when they heard big evil, Akiyama Mio couldn't help but clenched the phone tightly. She was actually very scared now, but she still forced herself to calm down. Online fortune-telling is inaccurate, online fortune-telling is inaccurate. After hypnotizing herself several times in this way, Akiyama Mio stabilized. Ritsu on the phone was silent for a few seconds before continuing, "You're right, after all, it's a computer fortune-telling, and it's only 10 yen. Don't worry, Mio, I just feel sorry for my 10 yen, and after calculating such a bad result, I still charge the money, so I should refund it." Mio Akiyama nodded, then thought of what happened to him just now, and suddenly wanted to share. By the way, Ritsu, when I looked in the mirror just now, there was obviously nothing touching the mirror, and then the front of the mirror was suddenly it broke. Puff. Lil, who was drinking water on the other side of the phone, spit out all the water. It seemed that he had only drank half of the water, and Lil choked on it. Cough cough cough. Hearing the cough on the other end of the phone, Akiyama Mio was a little worried. "Ryul, what's wrong with you? Are you alright?" The mirror suddenly cracked. "This is a bad omen. A big bad omen." Lil's voice became louder again this time. "I saw something similar when I was watching animation. It was when I looked in the mirror cracked, and then I went out and met the black cat passing by or something. These are bad omens." "That's just an animation setting, don't you scare me, I'm so scared." Akiyama Mio heard Ritsu say this, glanced at the cracked mirror next to him, the hand holding the phone began to tremble, the voice also with a hint of crying. Mio, don't be too nervous. Maybe we think too much. Maybe it's just a mirror problem. It's just a coincidence. Believe in science." Hearing Mio's voice, Ritsu knew that she was really scared, and couldn't help comforting her. Although she usually likes to tease Mio, she really cared about her best friend. After all, King Ian Girl is a warm and daily animation. The protagonists in it are all sunny girls. When encountering superstition, it's okay to listen to it as a horror story, but it's impossible to take it seriously. In fact, Lee also thinks that such things as bad omens are generally false. It is a bit unreliable that a few educated high school students are superstitious about these things here. All these years of education have been telling her that there is no such thing in this world. Kind of fortune telling, bad omens and stuff like that. The same is true for Akiyama Mio. She was afraid before, but she didn't really believe in bad omens anymore. She was just afraid of hearing ghost stories and the like. Moreover, she also knows that although they are all in high school, in the eyes of their parents, they are actually just children, and they cannot influence their parents' decision. If you go there, it will be considered a child's nonsense. Don't worry, Mio, I will always keep in touch with you, don't be afraid, just be careful when you go out, and if something strange happens, you can call and text me. Afterwards, Akiyama Mio chatted with Ritsu for a while, was comforted for a while, and finally regained her composure, and went out anyway. After preparing everything, Akiyama Mio got into his father's car and set off for his grandmother's house in the distance. Akiyama Mio sat in the back seat of the car, her parents sat in front. Akiyama Mio looked at the scenery outside the car window. After a while, Akiyama Mio felt sleepy. Mio, are you sleepy? If you are sleepy, sleep in the back for a while, and when you wake up, Dad will drive to Grandma's house, the mother sitting in the front row said to Akiyama Mio. Akiyama Mio nodded. She was a little sleepy, because of the long distance. It was estimated that there was still a long way to go, so Akiyama Mio lay down and rested. After an unknown amount of time, Akiyama Mio finally woke up. She felt that she seemed to have slept for a long time. Logically speaking, she should have arrived at her grandmother's house. Not yet? Dad. After Akiyama Mio sat up, she glanced out the car window, and suddenly found that the scenery outside the car window was very strange, and the road was not a normal road, but a small road, surrounded by tall trees, as if in a forest. Road, Akiyama Mio had never seen it before. Dad. Akiyama Mio sensed something was wrong. Little Mio, don't worry, when I was at the intersection just now, I found out that the road was being built there, and it took a long detour to get to Grandma's house, so your father took a shortcut. It's okay, and you will arrive at Grandma's house soon. Sat the mother in the front row, turned her head and comforted her. Really? Mio Akiyama felt a little uneasy in his heart. So he couldn't help but took out his mobile phone and sent a text message to Lee. Father took a shortcut, which is a very strange path. Sent successfully. On this small path, Akiyama Mio saw a stone that looked like some kind of god statue, which she had never seen before, and the further she went to the depth of this path, the more strange Akiyama Mio felt. It was as if, at the end of this road, it might lead to some kind of different place. Father, why don't we go back the way we came, and don't go any further? Mio Akiyama couldn't help but said. Trust Dad, as long as you go straight ahead, you will see Grandma. Xiao Mio, just wait, or you can sleep a little longer. The father who drove was still full of confidence. However, at the end of the drive, I discovered that there was a tunnel at the end of the path. Moreover, the entrance of the tunnel was blocked by a stone statue, so the car also stopped. The car can't pass. Mio's father got out of the car and walked to the entrance of the tunnel. The tunnel seemed very long, and he didn't know where it led. Mio Akiyama and her mother also got out of the car and walked to the front of the tunnel. Suddenly, a gust of wind came from the depths of the tunnel, and when it was blown by this wind, Akiyama Mio shrank her neck. What a terrible wind! What's so scary about the wind? Let's go in and have a look, maybe there is a way out behind this, Akiyama Mio's father suggested. You can go in and see if there is a place that sells things. I'm a little thirsty. Akiyama Mio's mother seemed to agree to go in. No, let's go back. Akiyama Mio refused. She really didn't like this tunnel. Little Mio, you are too timid. This is not acceptable. Akiyama Mio's father completely ignored his daughter's proposal. Many adults are like this. They will not discuss decisions with their children. If you don't want to go, just stay in the car, and your mother and I will take a look first. Saying that, Akiyama Mayo's parents walked towards the depths of the tunnel. Mother! No matter what Mio Akiyama yelled behind her, the adults ignored her. She couldn't help but took out her phone and sent another text message to Ritsu. My parents and I entered a strange tunnel. Sent successfully. After sending this text message, Akiyama Mio chased after her. She didn't want to stay in the car alone. In this kind of gloomy alley, it's even more scary to stay in the car alone. Mom, wait for me. Soon, Akiyama Mio caught up with her parents, and then followed them through the tunnel to a very empty place. As far as the eye can see, there are lush lawns, and there are many traces of houses in the distance. Where is this place? Akiyama Mio asked curiously. I don't know, maybe it's an abandoned theme park. It was built everywhere in the 1990s, and then the economic bubble broke, so they were all abandoned. Akiyama Mio's father led Akiyama Mio's mother and daughter to walk forward. They didn't go far, and soon they smelled a fragrance. This smell is there a place that sells snacks? I'm just a little hungry, so I'll go and have a look. After smelling the scent, Akiyama Mio's father couldn't wait to walk over along the scent. Following the smell, they didn't go far, and soon, they found a street full of food, which looked like an ordinary food street, but it was very strange that on the stalls of this food street, there is a lot of food, but there is no one, no shopkeepers, no customers. Very weird. Is anyone there? Excuse me, is anyone there? Akiyama Mio's father asked, but no one responded. Why don't we eat first, anyway, when the time comes, we'll settle the bill. Okay, little Mio, you are hungry too, come and eat together, Akiyama Mio's mother waved to Akiyama Mio. No, let's go back, the store will be angry, Mio Akiyama shook his head and refused. What are you afraid of? My father is here. Little Mio, don't be afraid. No matter what happens, my father will carry it in front of me. Besides, it's not that I won't pay. It's nothing. Akiyama Mio's father had already started to eat. Akiyama Mio looked at her parents who had been eating, feeling a little overwhelmed. Anyway, no matter what she said, her parents would not listen to her, but Akiyama Mio was also a little hungry, but she didn't directly eat the food at other people's stalls. Akiyama Mio looked around, it was really strange that there was no one in the food street. So, she couldn't help but took out her mobile phone and sent a text message to Lee. We arrived at a food street with no one there. Failed to send. Huh? Why can't it be sent out? Is the signal not good? Akiyama Mio looked at the phone and found that there was no signal at all. It's strange, why the signal here is so bad, and why is there no one? There was no one around, and his parents were eating, so Akiyama Mio started to wander around to take a look, but soon, Akiyama Mio saw a very tall building in the distance, on which was written Oil House 2 big characters. Where is this place? Soon, the sky became dark. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhoujiazi Jumiao. Chapter 138. Akiyama Mio glanced at the sky and found that the sun was about to set. Time flies, I have to hurry back to find my parents. Mio Akiyama looked at the gradually darkening sky and began to walk in the direction of her parents. However, as the sky darkened, the lights of the surrounding stalls were turned on. One by one, along the direction of the food street, all the lights turned on, as if these empty shops were finally about to open. The originally quiet food street seemed to suddenly become lively. That is, Akiyama Mio saw that there seemed to be a few translucent black shadows at the booth, so she couldn't help rubbing her eyes. Is it a hallucination? The breeze blew the hem of Akiyama Mio's clothes, and at this moment she also sensed that something was wrong with the surrounding atmosphere. At this time another black shadow suddenly appeared and walked by Akiyama Mio's side. This time, she saw clearly. It is really a translucent black shadow, something that is absolutely impossible to appear in reality. Illusion, it's all an illusion. In the past, I heard ghost stories, but this time I may have encountered a ghost. Aki Yamamio was so frightened that her legs were trembling. Now she is very scared. The only people who can help her are her parents. Mom and Dad, where are you? Dad, Mom. Aki Yamamio tried not to look at the abnormalities around her, and started to return along the original path, and then she quickly found her parents who were eating, but, from the back view, her parents seemed to have grown in size. Dad, Mom, something seems wrong here, let's go back quickly. However, when Aki Yamamio's father turned back with the plate, a huge pig's head appeared in front of Aki Yamamio, and her parents had been turned into pigs. Ah! Not hallucinations, neither hallucinations. The moment Mio Akiyama saw her father turning into a pig, the hairs all over her body stood on end, and she remembered what her best friend said at this moment. Ominous omen, great omen. My parents were turned into pigs, and I came to a place full of monsters and ghosts, which is not like a normal world. I am afraid there is no worse situation than this situation. After such a sudden change, Aki Yamamio is a bit timid. She was so frightened that she collapsed, her legs went limp and she fell to the ground. She tried to run, but her legs couldn't move at all. Don't get in the way. A black figure with a hoarse accent stretched out his hand, it seemed to be the owner of the shop, grabbed Aki Yamamio's arm, took her to a remote corner outside the shop, and threw her there. Aki Yamamio did not resist during the whole process. For her, all the current situations were never experienced before, and she never even thought about it. Although Aki Yamamio was afraid, she was in a desperate situation and still wanted to save herself. She took out her mobile phone and desperately sent messages to all the people, and made calls, but the messages failed to be sent, and the calls were not in the service area. Failed to send. Failed to send. Failed to send. Looking at send failed one by one on the phone, the tears in Aki Yamamio's eyes could no longer be controlled, and the tears gushed out like she didn't want money. Why is this happening? Who will save me? This is not a normal world anymore. At this moment, the helpless Aki Yamamio is experiencing the most desperate moment in her life. The sky has turned completely dark, and it has officially entered the night. Aki Yamamio has not noticed one thing, that is, her body is gradually becoming transparent from the bottom of her feet. It is estimated that she will disappear in this world soon up. At this time, in the soup house, Syaruo had just finished soaking in the hot spring and changed into his uniform in his room. He glanced at the sky outside the window, and Syaruo knew that the hot spring house was about to open. I'm going to work again. Oh, I'm so tired, my task heroine, when will you arrive? Then I can go home. Just as he was talking, a system prompt suddenly appeared in Syaruo's mind. Ding! The plot mission is in progress, the girl has strayed into this world and is in danger, waiting for your rescue, please find the girl as soon as possible. In order to help the host find the target, the system will give a clue prompt. Ding, the clue is being distributed. Has the plot started? Looking at the system prompt, Syaruo had a hint of surprise on his face. He had no choice but to stay in this world for a long time. If people don't come again, Syaruo will almost be unable to stay. Although the plot mission this time was designed by the system is quite conscientious. It gave itself a reminder when the girl arrived, and it seemed that it had to give clues. It must be more convenient to have clues. Syaruo glanced out the window. Now that girl should have just fallen into this world. It is already dark. Ordinary humans will disappear directly if they don't eat the things in this world. I have to race against time to find her before she disappears, but there are many shops near the soup house. It takes a long time to find a human being among them. If it takes too much time to find someone, she will probably disappear before I can find her, so the system's prompt is extremely important. It's just that Syaruo wants to know how the system will give him clues. Just when Syaruo was thinking this way, Syaruo suddenly noticed that the mobile phone placed in her private space rang. The phone is ringing? Not to mention the problem of whether there is a signal in this world, Syaruo has put the phone in his private space. Why does the phone ring? And Syaruo remembers that he turned off the phone when he put it down. Because the space is Syaruo's own ability, Syaruo can also know what is going on in the space, but it is a bit weird that the phone is ringing. Syaruo can easily think of this abnormal situation. Just now the system said to give yourself clues. After all, only the system can do it anymore. In order to give clues, the system even turned on the phone that was turned off by itself. Is this a clue? Syaruo couldn't help but took out her mobile phone, and then saw the text message sent by Akiyama Mio. Who will save me? I have arrived in a strange world. Is it her? Is it Mio Akiyama who came to this world? But, it's obviously not from the same world, so is this the fusion of worlds that the system says? Syaruo quickly connected all the previous information together. It's just that the fusion of the world, doesn't the worldview have to be the same? Syaruo now really wants to know what the system measures the worldview, and whether the worldview is the same as long as the people inside speak Japanese. Thinking about this is meaningless now. The most important thing now is to find Akiyama Mio, otherwise she may be in danger. Syaruo immediately picked up the phone and sent a text message to Akiyama Mio. Where are you now? Mio Akiyama is sitting quietly in the corner, with her arms around her knees and her head buried in her knees, like a frightened little rabbit nestled into a ball. How she hopes that this is just a horrible dream. But whether she pinches her body or bites her tongue with her teeth, she can feel pain. Everything is reminding her that this is not a dream, this is real. The message could not be sent out. Her parents turned into pigs. Mio Akiyama was very scared. She could not return to the normal world. Wake up, wake up. Akiyama Mio didn't know how long she had been crying, but when she was crying, she saw that her knees became a little transparent. Seeing this scene, Akiyama Mio was startled. She took another look at her hands, and found that her palms were also slowly becoming transparent, through which she could even see the ground. Why? At this time, Akiyama Mio suddenly heard the vibration of the mobile phone. Hum bum. The mobile phone rang unexpectedly. Obviously the sending of the message just now failed. Now the mobile phone rang suddenly. Akiyama Mio seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw, and immediately turned on the mobile phone, but this time, the sender that Akiyama Mio saw was actually the person he used to be. Syaruo, who kept sending messages, failed. Where are you now? Seeing this news, for some reason, Akiyama Mio recalled the appearance of that boy in his mind, and at the same time, Akiyama Mio felt a moment of relief in his heart. Even though this matter was very abnormal, Akiyama Mio still cried, then returned the news. I have arrived in a strange world, and I am so scared. Don't be afraid. Immediately after this news, Syaruo called, and Akiyama Mio answered Syaruo's call with his translucent hands. On the other side of the phone, Akiyama Mio heard Syaruo's familiar and stable voice. Don't be afraid, nothing will happen. Tell me your location now, and I'll go find you. You can't come, I went to another world. I'm scared now, it's so strange here, surrounded by transparent shadow people, and my parents have also become pigs. My body has also become transparent. I want disappeared. I was so scared. Finally hearing a familiar voice, Akiyama Mio confides her uneasiness and fear loudly to the phone. Although what I said is too bizarre, it's all true. Do you believe what I said? It's really scary here. I can't get through except your phone, only you. On the other side of the phone, Syaruo listened quietly to the girl's confidant, feeling the girl's uneasiness. Who could keep calm when encountering such a thing? I take your word for it. Hearing that Sioruo believed her words, Akiyama Mio felt moved, but after she glanced at her transparent hands, her eyes dimmed again. Sioruo-jun, I'm about to disappear. You won't disappear. I know the situation. You calm down first, and you will be fine. I promise, I will be able to find you before you disappear. While comforting Akiyama Mio, Sioruo asked her where she was. Think about it now, can you recall what was written on the signboard of the restaurant your parents ate at? You can't come, this is another world, and I don't know the way, it's my father's car. Akiyama Mio's tone became desperate, and she seemed to realize that even if someone heard her cry for help, it was impossible to come here to save herself, because she didn't know the way at all. Mr. Xia, what are you doing? The guests are coming soon. On the other side of the phone, Akiyama Mio seemed to hear someone else's voice, which seemed to be in Japanese. It was very strange, isn't Sioruo-jun in Hwagyo? Don't despair, don't give up hope, no matter where you are, I will definitely find you, Mio, do you believe me? Sioruo, who was on the other side of the phone, felt Akiyama Mio's despair, asked, and even called Mio. I believe. How can you believe that you can't do it at all? Akiyama Mio also wants to believe in Sioruo, but no matter how you think about it, it is impossible. This world is no longer normal. Unless it is a miracle, otherwise, how could Sioruo find herself before she disappeared? She saw that not only her knees and hands, but also her upper body gradually became transparent. It is estimated that in another 10 minutes, she will disappear. It is absolutely impossible to find herself in such a short period of time. Possibly, unless, really, there are miracles. Quickly tell me your location. Sioruo was still asking on the other side of the phone, and the voice on the other side of the phone was very loud, as if Sioruo was running. Sioruo-jun, I am very satisfied to be able to chat with you before I die. I thought I would die alone, but I didn't expect. Stop talking about that mess, tell me your location. Sioruo's voice was a little louder this time, scaring Akiyama Mio who was crying. The location is a food street full of black shadows. Mio Akiyama stopped crying and replied weakly when Sioruo-ji arrived. What's the sign of the restaurant where your parents eat? Sioruo on the other side of the phone asked this question again. I think about it, I seem to have an impression, Akiyama Mio didn't expect Sioruo's tone to be so serious, so she also seriously recalled, it seems to be some kind of octopus shop. There are 2 big red lanterns at the door. It's in the corner of the aisle near that store now. I see. Sioruo on the other side of the phone seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, Ms. Akiyama Mio, calm down now, then close your eyes and count down for 5 seconds. If you open your eyes after the countdown, maybe there will be surprises. It's useless, I'm about to die. Akiyama Mio didn't expect that Sioruo was still joking with himself at this time. Did he think that what he said was all lies? How can you make such a joke at this time? Listen to me, close your eyes and count down, I won't lie to you, this time, Sioruo on the other side of the phone was much gentler. I don't know why, after hearing this voice, Akiyama Mio couldn't help but want to believe what he said. It might be that after Sioruo-jun answered the phone, his tone of voice was very serious, which made people want to believe it. Good. Akiyama Mio really closed her eyes and began counting down quietly. Akiyama Mio counted down with her mobile phone. During the countdown, she found that Sioruo had hung up the phone. When she heard the call was hung up, Akiyama Mio was a little flustered, but she still finished the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When the countdown ended, Akiyama Mio opened her eyes. Looking up, she saw a familiar face appearing in front of her, as well as the voice she had just heard on the phone. I said, I will find you before you disappear. After Syaruo finished these words gently, she stretched out her hand and gently stroked Akiyama Mio's head. I'm here, everything is fine. The moment Syaruo appeared in front of her, Akiyama Mio didn't know what she was thinking at that time. Maybe her brain was messed up at that time. She opened her mouth to speak, but couldn't say anything. But one thing is certain. That is, there are really miracles in this world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 139. Originally thought that she would die alone like this, but she didn't expect to see hope after despair. In this case, Akiyama Mio couldn't hold back her emotions anymore, and couldn't help crying and shouting. You really came. At this time, Akiyama Mio was very pitiful. Well, here I come. You, why did you appear here? Seeing Syaruo suddenly appearing in front of her, Akiyama Mio seemed to have forgotten her fear. She rubbed her eyes to confirm that it was not an illusion. It's very troublesome to explain. I have already arrived in this world. If I wasn't here, I wouldn't be able to save you. Besides, after I came, everything will be fine. Syaruo gently stroked Akiyama Mio's head, trying to comfort her. At the same time, Syaruo took out a ball and handed it to Akiyama Mio. Eat this. If you don't eat anything from this world, you will disappear. No, you will turn into a pig if you eat. Akiyama Mio looked at the meatballs Syaruo gave and shook her head desperately. Trust me, I won't turn into a pig. The three words "believe me" that Syaruo said at this time seemed to have an inexplicable magic power, which made Mio Akiyama couldn't help but want to believe. So, Akiyama Mio took the ball from Syaruo's hand and ate it. Sure enough, as Syaruo said, the transparent body slowly returned to its original shape. It really changed back. Seeing this scene, Akiyama Mio wiped the tears from his face. Well, in this world, I am the only one who will never lie to you, Syaruo said in an unusually gentle tone, hoping to give her a sense of security. But Mom and Dad have been turned into pigs, and there are many scary things around. Mio Akiyama was like a child who was at a loss. Your parents are fine. You will see them later. With me here, I will take you back properly. I will rescue your parents. It's fine. Everything will be fine. Akiyama Mio heard Syaruo's comforting words, and raised her head to look at Syaruo. Looking at Syaruo's calm gaze, the fear in her heart gradually decreased. At this time, the tears had stopped, and she didn't know if it was because she was no longer afraid, or she had no strength to cry. Akiyama Mio didn't know why Syaruo-jun was so kind to her. Being able to appear like a hero at such a critical moment, Mio Akiyama felt a little different in his heart at this time. Syaruo seemed to feel Akiyama Mio's uneasiness, so he stretched out his little finger. Then let's make an agreement. Seeing that Akiyama Mio didn't react, Syaruo hooked Akiyama Mio's little finger with her little finger. I promise you, I will send you, and your parents, out of this world safely. Syaruo took care of herself like this, and made such an agreement with Mio Akiyama. This scene was very similar to the agreement the two made at Syaruo's house back then, as if the two images overlapped. Well, I believe you. At this time, Granny Tang was flying over in the sky. Syaruo glanced at Granny Tang in the air and frowned. Granny Tang probably knew that besides the two people who were turned into pigs, there was another human being who entered this place. The world. What's wrong? Akiyama Mio asked, puzzled after seeing Syaruo raised her head. Nothing. Seeing that Akiyama Mio was no longer crying, and had calmed down a lot, Syaruo was going to take her back to the soup house first. After all, the soup house is open now, and she hasn't cooked yet, so many people are probably looking for her. Can you stand up? Syaruo glanced at Akiyama Mio, who was still sitting on the ground, and asked. Akiyama Mio tried it, but found that her legs could not move at all. I can't stand up, my legs are shaking all the time, and I have no strength at all. After all, she is a young girl, and she is timid. Under such circumstances, it is not bad to be comforted by Syaruo to calm down. Realizing that she was so incompetent and would only be a hindrance, Akiyama Mio couldn't help but want to cry again. She was really too weak. I'm only going to hold back. It's okay if you can't stand up, I'm here. Syaruo didn't care about Akiyama Mio's answer at all. At this moment, the words "I am here" brought Akiyama Mio a great sense of security at this moment. Syaruo put her two fingers together and touched Akiyama Mio's head, and then chanted some inexplicable spells. Suddenly, a blue light flashed from Syaruo's fingertips and penetrated into Akiyama Mio's body. Shenshin art. Some basic magic that Syaruo and Granny Tang learned can calm people down. After the blue light entered Akiyama Mio's body, Akiyama Mio felt that her sense of fear dissipated a lot, her brain became clear and calm, and her slightly trembling body stopped. Amazing. After calming down, Akiyama Mio realized that Syaruo-jun might be different from what he imagined. He might not be an ordinary person. I was too scared to think before, but because Syaruo's magic calmed down, Akiyama Mio also noticed many problems. That is, where is this world? Why is Syaruo-jun here? This world is so strange. Syaruo, it's strange that Ruo-jun suddenly appeared. Even, Akiyama Mio had a bold guess, that is, she might have reached the underworld, but in fact Syaruo-jun might have died, that's why she came here. But no matter what Syaruo-jun is like, Akiyama Mio wants to believe him. Syaruo naturally didn't know Akiyama Mio's wild thoughts, and put her hand on Akiyama Mio's leg again. Earth, wood, water, fire, gold, in the name of wind and water, obey my orders and stand up. A breeze slowly lifted Akiyama Mio's legs, allowing her to stand up. At this time, Syaruo had already mastered the wind travel technique learned with her reputation, and it was no problem to use the wind force to control a person to walk. Syaruo looked at Mio Akiyama next to him. The soup house has opened, now I have to go back quickly. You and me, remember, without my prompt, don't talk nonsense, and don't be afraid. With me, it is absolutely safe. Akiyama Mio now chooses to trust Syaruo unconditionally. After all, in this world, she can only trust the only person who knows herself. Syaruo took Akiyama Mio's little hand. Walk. Because of the Feng Xin technique, Akiyama Mio, who was pulled by Syaruo, ran like the wind, and everything around him was passing by at high speed. So fast. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Speeding all the way like the wind, soon, Syaruo brought Akiyama Mio to the bridge in front of the soup house. In the original work, the white dragon made Chihiro hold her breath, and was careful not to be discovered by Chihiro. It was brought into the soup house, but Syaruo didn't care at all, and just pulled Akiyama Mio inside. More than twice as crazy as Beilong. And he didn't want to let the heroine be like Beilong. He was really worried about Akiyama Mio. What would happen if something happened to her without his own care? The guests on the bridge are all kinds of gods, some have many eyes on their faces, some look like reptiles, some look like animals, and some look like octopuses, all kinds of strange things. If it was before, seeing this kind of scene, Mio Akiyama would probably faint from fright, but with the blessing of Syaruo's magic, she could barely hold back. Then, Akiyama Mio saw a frog bouncing over from a distance, jumped in front of Syaruo, and began to speak in a very respectful tone. Mr. Xia, everyone is looking for you. The guests have been waiting for a long time. If you don't come back, we don't know what to do. Okay, I'll go right away, Syaruo nodded. Tom seemed to be still sleeping and forgot to wake him up. Mr. Xia. Akiyama Mio no longer finds it strange that frogs can talk, but she finds that Xiaoruo's status in this world seems a bit unusual. People, humans. At this time, the frog monster noticed Mio Akiyama beside Xiaoruo, and couldn't help shouting. What are you shouting for? Xiaoruo slashed the frog's head with a knife. Hush your voice, this girl just strayed here by accident, I'll bring her back first. Why, do you have any questions? Or, what do you think of human beings? No, I don't have any opinion, the frog swallowed. It didn't forget that Mr. Xia in front of him is also a human being. It's no problem for a human to bring a human. But if a human breaks in, Granny Tang. I'll talk to Granny Tang. Xiaoruo held Akiyama Mio's hand like this, and walked straight into the soup house, ignoring the eyes of the surrounding soup house staff and gods, as if for him, bringing Akiyama Mio into the soup house was really not a big deal. Are you okay? Mio Akiyama was still a little scared looking at the scary creatures coming and going around, and their curious and examining eyes. Trust me, Xiaoruo tightened Akiyama Mio's little hand. As long as she was by Xiaoruo's side, Akiyama Mio felt a sense of security. He brought Akiyama Mio to the soup house, and as soon as he entered, Xiaoruo heard a familiar charming female voice. Mr. Xia, I have been waiting for you for a long time today. I thought you had gone somewhere. It turned out that I went on a date with a girl. I am so sad. Beside Xiaoruo, a vortex of leaves appeared. Soon, those leaves slowly condensed, and then condensed into a charming woman. It seemed that this was some kind of advanced movement technique. Xiaoruo glanced at that place, and what appeared in front of Xiaoruo's eyes was a female god with an exquisite figure, long purple hair, and a white cloth strip on her face. Although the white cloth on her face covered her face, she was definitely a very beautiful woman. It turned out to be Miss Sheng. Today I have something to pick up, my friend. I'm late and kept you waiting, Xiaoruo responded with a professional smile. This is a female god who often comes to eat, and she is also a regular customer. But if it's her, it's a little troublesome. Pick up, friends. If I hadn't come down to look, I wouldn't have known that Mr. Xia had such a lovely female friend. The god named Sheng Sheng slowly approached Akiyama Mio, and at the same time found that she had been with Xiaoruo all along. Started, huh? Or human. It's pretty. Seeing her getting closer, Mio Akiyama hid behind Xiaoruo with some fear. It's just an ordinary human friend. Xiaoruo also moved a little, completely blocking Akiyama Mio. Although this situation is somewhat troublesome, Xiaoruo is not unable to solve it. After all, it has been working for so long. I saw that Xiaoruo's eyes gradually became clear and sincere. In terms of beauty, I have never seen such a beautiful god as Miss Sheng. You are definitely the most beautiful god I have ever received, and your temperament is also very good. Very unique and charming. That kind of temperament is completely lacking in ordinary little girls. Really? Miss Sheng finally took her gaze away from Akiyama Mio. Of course it's true, I usually don't lie, Xiaoruo's voice seemed extremely sincere. Akiyama Mio tilted her head behind Xiaoruo. She always felt that the sentence seemed familiar. Where did she hear it? Miss Sheng, is your performance not good recently? Come here to relax, Xiaoruo tried to change the subject. Sure enough, just as Xiaoruo thought, when this topic came up, Miss Sheng began to complain. That's right, the performance has been a mess recently. It's not easy to be a god now. Every day is a busy day. I'm exhausted. There are too many little gods under my hands, and it's troublesome to manage. And recently there are too many underlings. I hired a few idiots from the newcomers, they couldn't help at all, they only made trouble, and in the end I was the one who wiped my ass. It was a kind of torture. I feel that my divine power has been reduced recently, and my skin has become a little loose. Chattering, Xiaoruo listened to Miss Sheng's confession, with a hint of distress on her face. It's so miserable. I really feel sorry for Miss Sheng. I'll cook a pot of beauty porridge for you in a while. After drinking the porridge, I will guarantee that Miss Sheng will be in a happy mood and her skin will become shiny. Yeah, every time I finish eating Mr. Xia's dishes, I feel happy. Today, would you like to have some wine with me? Let's forget the wine, it's not good for the skin. It's okay. I'm a god. I'm different from humans. Drinking alcohol is not a problem at all. For me, alcohol is the source of motivation for work. You can skip meals every day, but you must drink alcohol. Hearing this, the corners of Xiaoruo's mouth twitched. You have been drinking all day, are you working? And it's okay to drink, so you can believe it if you drink porridge to beautify your face. Miss Sheng has indeed worked hard, so I'll accompany Miss Sheng to have a few drinks today. I wouldn't drink with ordinary gods, Xiaoruo said softly. Okay, then I'll go up and wait for you first, I still have a lot to say to you today, you have to come quickly, Miss Sheng said, and her whole body turned into a leaf and disappeared on the spot. Xiaoruo shook her head helplessly, then turned to look at Akiyama Mio with a dazed expression. I've been working here before, and I'm going to work soon, and now the guests are waiting anxiously, you wait for me here first, and I'll take you to see the owner of the soup house after I'm done. Well, I'll wait for you. At this time, Akiyama Mio was still innocent, and she didn't misunderstand anything, of course, there was nothing to misunderstand. Xiaoruo asked someone to call Xiaoling, handed Akiyama Mio to Xiaoling, and then called Tom herself, and went to make porridge for the god sister above. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhezi Jumiao. Chapter 140. It actually takes a long time to cook porridge, but Xiaoruo has recently learned magic, which can greatly shorten this time. The combination of magic and cooking has also improved Xiaoruo's cooking level to a certain extent. Xiaoruo has already started to progress from a chef to a magic chef, but she has to accompany the wine after cooking, and Xiaoruo doesn't know how long she will be busy. After Xiaoruo left, Akiyama Mio followed Xiaoling. Since it was Mr. Xia's order, Xiaoling naturally had to take care of Akiyama Mio. Human. Xiaoling looked Akiyama Mio up and down, she had never seen such a cute girl in terms of appearance, it's pretty cute. Akiyama Mio just lowered her head, not daring to respond. Name? Xiaoling asked with her hands folded around her chest. Mio Akiyama. Akiyama Mio's voice was still too low to be heard. Are you so timid? Xiaoling looked at the gods coming and going, and now this little girl standing here with herself is a bit eye-catching. My name is Xiaoling. Since Mr. Xia entrusted you to me, I will take good care of you. Don't just stand here blankly. Come with me first. Yes, Akiyama Mio's voice was as small as a mosquito. In this unknown place, the big sister in front of her looks like a human being, which gives Akiyama Mio a sense of security, and Xiaoruo-jun convinces herself to trust her, so Akiyama Mio will naturally be obedient. It's business hours now, and Xiaoling still has to work, so she asked Akiyama Mio to follow her, and then took her to a very dirty hot spring pool. This kind of dirty hot spring pool is used by ordinary dirty gods, now it's Xiaoling's turn to clean up. In the soup house, since you know Mr. Xia, you should be fine. No one dares to bully you, Xiaoling said to Akiyama Mio. Mr. Xia. Akiyama Mio heard that everyone around her called Xiaoruo, so she was curious about Xiaoruo's identity and how he got here. What kind of person is Xiaoruo-jun here? How did he get here? Hey, you actually know Mr. Xia's name. It seems that the two of you have a very good relationship. Obviously, Mr. Xia and I have known each other for so long, and we don't even know his name. Xiaoling looked at Mio Akiyama in surprise, and Mr. Xia's name is Xiaoruo, haha, I guess I am the only one who knows about it in the soup house besides Granny Tang. He and I knew each other before, Akiyama Mio whispered. Well, I guess you are friends in the human world. You haven't told me what Xiaoruo-jun is like here? Akiyama Mio continued to ask. Xiaoling thought for a while, and felt that it was okay to tell her. About Mr. Xia, I remember that he came to the soup house more than a month ago, as if he appeared suddenly. He is different from ordinary humans. I heard that he found it directly. Granny Tang signed the contract and directly became the senior management of the soup house. She is a very powerful human being. At that time, Granny Tang introduced him in front of everyone. At that time, everyone in the soup house didn't like humans very much, but Mr. Xia was indeed very capable. Even if his cooking was eaten by gods, he would be full of praise, and he was also gentle. He is kind, generous, and gives a lot of tips. At that time, a monster entered the soup house, and it was Mr. Xia who stood up and solved it alone. Now everyone in the soup house admires Mr. Xia. Amazing. When Akiyama Mio heard this, she couldn't help being surprised and said that she knew it. When they met before, Xiaoruo-jun was still an ordinary person. The world is in chaos. At this time, Akiyama Mio couldn't help but think of the mysterious woman she saw at the door just now. Listening to the conversation, that woman is also a god, but when communicating with Xiaoruo-jun, it is completely an equal exchange. This is definitely not something that ordinary people can do. Moreover, if Xiaoruo-jun didn't exist, he would have disappeared by now. But why did he come here? Akiyama Mio was still curious. Xiaoling shook her head. I don't know, but I heard that the guy in charge said that he leaked his words at the time. Mr. Xia came to the soup house to learn magic with Granny Tang, so he signed the contract here. Learning magic? Yes, Granny Tang is the owner of the soup house. The magic is super powerful. It can turn people into animals. If someone is disobedient, they will be turned into charcoal to burn coal in the boiler room. Mr. Xia seems to come here to learn from Granny Tang. Magical, Xiaoling patiently explained. That is to say, Akiyama Mio is an acquaintance of Mr. Xia, and she is so patient. If it is an ordinary stranger, how could Xiaoling be so kind and answer every question? When Akiyama Mio heard this information, she thought of her parents who were turned into pigs. Maybe her parents were turned into pigs by that Tang granny. What's more, Xiaoruo-jun also learned magic. When he was weak, Xiaoruo-jun touched his body lightly, and he felt as if he was about to fly. Can Xiaoruo-jun undo the magic on her parents? Thinking of this, Akiyama Mio seemed to see the hope of saving her parents. However, I am also very worried about Mr. Xia, Xiaoling said again. What's wrong? Akiyama Mio asked in confusion. Because people who learn magic with Granny Tang don't end well, and in order to learn magic, I don't know what kind of contract Mr. Xia signed with Granny Tang at that time. It must be a very harsh contract. Contract? Mio Akiyama asked puzzled. Yes, everyone who works in the soup house has signed a contract with Granny Tang, and the contract is very harsh. After signing the contract, everyone actually has no future, and they can't find their way home. Today, Mr. Xia, although he looks happy and has a gentle smile every day, he must be burdened with heavy burdens. In my opinion, he is just Granny Tang's money-making tool. Xiaoling is a very careful person. One day before, she was assigned to serve Xiaoruo. When Mr. Xia was in the hot spring, she was feeding fruit beside her. At that time, she saw a trace of sadness in Mr. Xia's eyes. At that moment, she knew that Mr. Xia was not really happy. The moment she saw that look, Xiaoling even felt heartache and pity for a moment. But what Xiaoling didn't know was that Xiaoruo was thinking in her heart, why hasn't the protagonist of the mission come? I've been waiting for a long time. So that's how it is. Akiyama Mio also covered her mouth when she heard this. She never thought that Xiaoruo-jun, who looked reliable, would carry such a heavy load on her back. How difficult it was to come to this place from the human world to learn magic experience. It would be nice if he could save herself, but she still wanted him to save her parents. Akiyama Mio suddenly felt that she was too bad. Okay, I've said so much, I'm starting to work. Today's task hasn't been done yet. Xiaoling picked up the mop, and began to clean up the dirty bathroom room. Xiaoling cleaned for 10 minutes, looked back, and then saw Mio Akiyama staring blankly, with her hands in the middle. Then Xiaoling glanced at Akiyama Mio. That, Akiyama Mio also blushed a little embarrassedly at this time. Do you want me to help? Snapped. A mop was thrown in front of Akiyama Mio, and Xiaoling was not that kind of polite person, so she just threw a mop to her. Mio Akiyama had no choice but to pick up the mop to do the work. After all, she had just told me so much about Xiaoruo and the hot spring house, but the bathroom was too dirty, and there were some straws around. It is very difficult to get up. Although Akiyama Mio's family was not particularly rich, they were girls after all. They were spoiled at home, and they did things slowly, and felt a little sore in their arms after a while. Akiyama Mio couldn't help but stopped, looked up and looked around, couldn't help but said, "Such a big room, do you have to clean everything up?" "Of course, it looks like you are a big lady." Xiaoling couldn't help smiling. "Mr. Xia will definitely take you to see Granny Tang, and you will definitely work in the soup house by then." "It doesn't look good, let's get acquainted with the work first." "Do I also want to stay and work?" Akiyama Mio asked in a daze. "Of course, you don't think you can go back. Granny Tang is terrible. If you don't have enough benefits, she won't let you go for nothing. You can only stay and work. Anyone who doesn't work will turn into an animal." "And charcoal essence," Xiaoling explained. Hearing these words, Mio Akiyama felt that her future was dark. Not only could her parents not be rescued, but even she would stay here for the rest of her life. At this moment, thinking of her own experience, Akiyama Mio's tears were about to flow out again. And at this moment, Akiyama Mio seemed to hear that reassuring voice. "Believe me. Are you hallucinating?" Akiyama Mio glanced around. Sure enough, that person did not appear. It was his own hallucination, but even if it was an illusion, it was enough for Akiyama Mio to calm down. Akiyama Mio held back his tears and continued to work. It's not over yet. After working for more than an hour, Mio Akiyama felt that his arms were completely exhausted. At this moment, a boy in white clothes suddenly appeared in front of Akiyama Mio. That boy was Granny Tang's new disciple, Bai Long. "Grandma Tang wants to see you, come with me," Bai Long said to Akiyama Mio expressionlessly. Akiyama Mio took 2 steps back in fear. After Xiaoling noticed what happened here, she immediately walked over. "Mr. Bai, Mr. Xia asked me to take care of this person. He said he would come down in a while and take this human being to see Granny Tang himself. Grandma Tang is going to see her now." Bai Long completely ignored Xiaoling's words, wanting to forcibly take Akiyama Mio away. But Xiaoling wanted to say something else. "It's nothing to worry about, this is Granny Tang's order." Bai Long's tone was still so indifferent. "But Mr. Xia told me to take good care of her." Xiaoling still refused to give an inch, picked up the mop to protect Akiyama Mio. Even if she couldn't beat Bai Long, she would not take a step back. I'll go with you." Akiyama Mio summoned up her courage and said. She didn't know if it was the reason why Xiaoruo-jun's magic just worked. She still has some courage and wants to face this matter in person. She doesn't want to embarrass Xiaoruo and Xiaoling. At the same time, she also wants to see it in person. The owner of the soup house. "Sister Xiaoling, let me go." Seeing this situation, Xiaoling had nothing to do, but shook Mio Akiyama's hand as if encouraging. I'll inform Mr. Xia, don't worry about it. Akiyama Mio nodded and followed Beilong, while Xiaoling put down her work and went directly to Xiaoruo. In her opinion, letting that timid girl meet Granny Tang alone might cause accidents, and Mr. Xia obviously cared about that girl very much, so she still needs to inform Mr. Xia about this matter. At this time, Xiaoruo was still drinking in the VIP room. Today, Miss Sheng was a guest. The two drank in a big house and sometimes sang. Xiaoruo also played the guitar well and sang well, so the high popularity is not for nothing. At this time in the VIP room, Miss Sheng had already had a little too much to drink, her face turned rosy, her eyes narrowed slightly, giving a feeling of being drunk. It's just that Xiaoruo felt that she was drunk before she had drunk much, and she probably went to work drunk when she was working. Xiaoruo's drinking capacity is actually pretty average, but Xiaoruo's drinking is a bit like Duan Yu in Tianlong Babu, and he can cheat. He transfers the drunk wine to his private space before entering his body, so it doesn't matter how much he drinks. Question. Otherwise, if the customer does not fall, you will fall, and that means that your ability to work will not work. Xiaoruo has been listening to Miss Sheng complaining just now. While comforting her, the two of them have gotten very close due to the fact that they drank more and more wine. Her long purple hair has already fallen into Xiaoruo's hands. Mr. Xia, you are so kind. He has been listening to me. Except for you, no one seems to understand me. Hiccup saying this, Miss Sheng hiccuped. It's a great honor for me to understand Miss Sheng. Miss Sheng is such an excellent god, but I just haven't let others notice it. In fact, I'm satisfied if I make Miss Sheng feel better. Xiaoruo's tone seemed very sincere. Combined with the innocent eyes, what he said seemed to be the truth. Haha, that's what I like to hear from you. Miss Sheng didn't seem to be sitting still, she suddenly fell on Xiaoruo's body, raised her drunken eyes, and looked at Xiaoruo. At this moment, Miss Sheng seemed to be completely drunk. Mr. Xia, I like you very much. You often listen to me. Miss Sheng, you are drunk, Xiaoruo couldn't help reminding. Miss Sheng waved her hands and opened her eyes wide. I can't drink enough, it's too early to get drunk. By the way, Mr. Xia, when did you start this business? That, I haven't been doing it for a long time, only 2 months. Xiaoruo didn't know why, but always felt that this question was a bit strange. Is this woman so strange when she is drunk? That's just entering the industry. It's so pitiful. She came out to make money at a young age. Miss Sheng picked up the wine beside her and took a big gulp. Xiaoruo now hopes that she will get drunk as soon as possible. What kind of questions are she asking? Why is it so strange? In fact, maybe I misunderstood, Miss Sheng didn't mean that. Maybe she was really drunk. Miss Sheng looked dizzy, and asked another question, but the drunk stuttered a little. By the way, Mr. Xia, you do this business, your family, does the family know? Xiaoruo. My family didn't know, I ran out to do it secretly. Xiaoruo wanted to say this, but she absolutely couldn't say it. It's all the fault of Granny Tang, who cooks well by herself, but suddenly adds some weird business for money, which is clearly not written in the contract. Xiaoruo really came here to comfort these gods not because of money, but to see how pitiful these gods are. Miss Sheng couldn't help but put her hand on Xiaoruo's cheek, and stroked it lightly. Promise me, don't do this in the future, and I will help you redeem yourself, okay? Xiaoruo. Ha 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 hiccup. Behind the sofa, Tom the cat kept laughing on the ground, laughing and pounding the ground. Tears were about to come out.